Hey everybody, Dr. Oliver here for backintelligence.com, and today we're going to talk about the simple act of walking, but how many people do it wrong. If you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button to get access to videos as we put them out. Walking is a great activity. Everyone does it every day. Yet a lot of people come into my office describing that their back starts to hurt, especially if they go for longer walks. Well, what does that tell me? All that tells me is that they're using muscles improperly, and they're probably using their back to walk too much. So if we can learn to use the right muscles and get the right muscles activated, you can take that activity and use it as a really good form of exercise to increase your strength and support your back as opposed to harming it. Walking is an activity we don't think about much, right? It's something we just go do. But if you look around, there's a lot of different ways that people walk. Well, there's some fundamentals we need to pay attention to. As we walk, our opposite leg and our opposite arm will swing together. It's just the way we are designed for balance and support. So as we're walking, we'll have Leon do some walking right now. As you're walking, as the right leg comes forward, the left arm comes forward, and vice versa. You should have a nice, gentle sway to you, opposite arm, opposite leg together. This is what your core is designed to be, a stable platform in the middle to allow your arms and legs to walk. And the way we walk best is just like this. Our shoulders should be relaxed. We shouldn't be tensing up into our shoulders. We also shouldn't be rounding forward. Oftentimes we'll see people with their shoulders rounded forward as they're walking. Your shoulders should be back as you're walking and more open. Your chest should feel more prominent. And you want to feel tall. Don't let yourself cave down. You should feel like you're slightly elevated as you're walking. The other thing to think about as we're walking is the way in which we are actually walking. So how are we transferring that load into our feet? So a lot of people will walk very rigidly on their heels, but what we want to do is get your toes involved more. Your toes are what spring you off to the next step. You don't want to be bouncing around, but you should have a little bit of movement in your body up and down slightly. So as your foot hits down, it's going to come through, and then your toe needs to push off. So you should feel a little bit of upward movement. And you don't need to exaggerate it, but you should feel a little press from your toes. A lot of people ignore their toes and don't put enough into it. So you want to feel as that foot strikes down and you transfer into the toes, that's what's going to push you off. Your stride should be a little bit longer. Short strides, you're not going to use your glutes effectively. If we can increase the stride length, we're going to use our glutes. And the glutes are the key to the back. So when we see people come into my office and people say, my back hurts when I walk, 9 out of 10 times it's because they're not using their glutes effectively or at all for that activity. And you should be. It should be a really glute-heavy activity. As your foot plants down, it's going to be your glute that pulls your leg through and pulls your body through and moves you forward. So we really want to emphasize that. A lot of times if people aren't doing this properly, I'll tell them simply think about it. Okay? As that foot hits down, think about contracting your glute. Think about contracting every time that foot plants down. Don't make it so rigid that you're walking like this, but just actively thinking about it can go a long way in getting you to use the right muscles. So try that pattern a little bit. Try to activate through there. And then the other thing we want to look at is what's going on in your pelvis, right? A lot of times people will be tilted forward and they'll start to feel their back as they're walking. Because their pelvis is tucked forward, you're going to engage through your back more at this point. And you definitely do not want that because this will lead to back pain. So where should you focus on? Focus on your stomach. Focus on your abdominal wall, tensing it, bringing your ribs down and your belt buckle up towards you and engaging there. If you tuck and tighten there, you're going to flatten out your back a little bit. You don't want a flat back, but you just don't want a big curve. And so if you can tense your core as you're walking. So you want to think about your core and your abdominal wall and your glutes. If you can get the front and the back working together, it's going to take a tremendous amount of load out of your low back, and you should feel fine. So maintain a nice slight core contraction in the front and work on those glutes activating as you're going through that walking pattern. One thing to think about, one exercise you should target if you have difficulty with this and looking at, there's 2 basic exercises I would tell you to do the most often. It's your dead bug exercises. Why? Because if you look at a dead bug, you're on the floor, moving opposite arm and opposite leg together, controlling that with your core in the middle. That's the purpose of that exercise. That's why it translates into activities like walking and running patterns. And your bridges, right? So on the ground, lifting your hips and glutes, getting your glutes to activate on hip extension. It's a difficulty for a lot of individuals, and you need to master that. So check out our other videos. We have plenty of videos on the dead bug and glute bridges and ways that you can amp those up and get those to be a much better exercise for you. Take these little tips that I just told you about walking, work on those exercises, and see if you can turn walking into a good thing for your back, not a bad thing.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like it and share it with a friend. Also, research shows that strengthening your core area can help relieve some of that low back pain that you're feeling, but it's important to know which exercises specifically to do and how, and you want these exercises to be both effective and safe for your spine. And we have just the PDF for that. So if you'd like to get a free PDF of core exercises that are safe for your spine and are very effective, there's going to be a link to get them somewhere here on the video or down below in the description. Just go to that page, enter your email, and we'll send you that PDF right away.